Cecile Richards from Planned Parenthood has released an apology regarding the video that was put out against them by a conservative organization known as the Center for Medical Progress. So the highly edited video made it seem as though Planned Parenthood is profiting off of selling the organs of fetuses. Of course, that is not the case. Any type of discussion regarding money in the heavily edited video had to do with the shipping costs that are incurred when someone is shipping the organs of the fetuses. Well, Cecile Richards took it upon herself to at least apologize for the tone of the executive in the video. And here's what she had to say. Our top priority is the compassionate care that we provide. In the video, one of our staff members speaks in a way that does not reflect that compassion. This is unacceptable, and I personally apologize for the staff member's tone and statements. Now, this might be a response to some of the investigations that Planned Parenthood is dealing with right now. There's a federal investigation, and then there are a number of states that are also investigating Planned Parenthood. On Thursday, the Republican governors of Georgia and Indiana joined their counterparts in Louisiana and Texas in ordering state-level investigations. Ohio's Republican Attorney General is also probing Planned Parenthood in his state. Now, considering the investigations, I think it was very important for Cecile Richards to not apologize, because I think the apology seems like an admission of guilt when Planned Parenthood has done absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah, look, she's in a tough spot. They're going to get investigated. Democrats are going to get scared, right? Some have already supported Planned Parenthood and said, hey, wait a minute, this tape is doctored and yada, yada, right? And the tape in no way shows that they're actually trying to profit off of it. They say you'd have to pay the $30 to $100 for shipping costs, right? Which is real. That's a real cost. That's how you're
also the notion that you're profiting on it by getting $40.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I get, and the tone of the woman was not great. And we talked about it on the first day, right? So she was a little flippant as she was talking about preserving the livers and the hearts. Now, the fact is, preserving the livers and the hearts for science is enormously important and saves a lot of lives that if you were pro-life, you'd really be happy about, right? Instead of just taking the aborted fetus and throwing it in the garbage, which doesn't save any lives, right? Now, having said all that, I get that she might want to say, hey, that's not the right tone. But I think there's a right way to do an apology like that to avoid the very legitimate problem that Anna's talking about. Because every headline now says, Planned Parenthood apologize.
Exactly.
So now, most people are not going to get into paragraph 17 and understand the nuance of that article.
Exactly.
What they're going to see is there was some video on Planned Parenthood that said that they were selling aborted fetuses, right, for body parts. And then Planned Parenthood apologized. So I guess they were wrong, right?
Exactly.
So here's how I would do it. I would say, hey, you know what? The tone was a little off. Now, here's who deserves to apologize. The people who put together this edited tape that did this hatchet job, and the Republican politicians who are in cahoots with them. Because in reality, we now know that Ann is going to tell you about it in a second, some Republican politicians knew about it well in advance. They'd already seen the tape. They're coordinating it as a specific plan of attack to take down Planned Parenthood. Right or wrong, doctored or not, facts be damned. So the people who really have to apologize are the ones that are trying to destroy the health and well-being of women across the country who absolutely rely on Planned Parenthood. So in that press conference or that statement, you've got to be 1,000 times more aggressive so that the correct headline shows up. Planned Parenthood demands apology from Republicans who are trying to take away women's rights.
It's really difficult for organizations to think this way, but you have to think in terms of a print journalist putting out an article about it, right? Because if the headline reads that you're apologizing, then it just seems like an admission of guilt. But a lot of people don't think that way, you know? So the way that you mentioned it would have been perfect. But unfortunately, it's like, all right, well, the tone was kind of messed up, so I'm going to apologize for the tone. Boom, admission of guilt. That's all it is.
I don't think this apology was orchestrated. Planned Parenthood, I'm sure, didn't want to apologize. I doubt Cecile Richards had any interest in apologizing, I'm sure, but she's used to dealing with crazy people all the time. I'm going to guess that she was in immediate contact with loyal members of Congress in this situation, and that, to me, sounds like an apology that comes from the Democratic Party. But it's a very Democratic apology, and so I suspect for them to say, hey, you want us to continue to take up your mantle, we got to show right off the bat that you disapprove of that kind of talk, you're going to have to apologize, and she apologized. That's very much.
And that's why the Democratic Party has been getting its ass handed to it for the last, what, 4 decades? Because, you know,
policy.
The Republicans come in strong and say, oh, this is what we're going to do, right? And Democrats go, and then they apologize for getting their ass kicked. I mean, it's just sick, man. So I don't begrudge Cecile Richards. I think she was in a tough spot, but we can't keep doing this. Okay, otherwise you're going to lose, and they're going to steamroll. And you think that strategy is going to work? No, it's just going to embolden Republicans to rip your budget apart and to attack you in every way possible.
There were a number of Republican politicians that already knew about this video prior to it coming out. In fact, they knew about it months before they came out. One of those politicians was actually Representative Trent Franks from Arizona. Representative Tim Murphy initially said he saw the video weeks ago, only to attempt to walk back those comments, telling CQ Roll Call that this interview didn't happen before the spokeswoman clarified that he wanted to do his due diligence before embarking on an investigation.
This interview didn't happen. What interview? The one that just happened?
Yeah. You didn't hear nothing. I didn't say nothing.
Okay, so when is Tim Murphy going to issue an apology? Because Tim Murphy, a United States congressman, was obviously working with these guys who did the doctor tape, right? And that is clearly twisting the actual issue at hand. And when caught, he was like, oh my God, this interview didn't happen, right? I mean, clearly realizes he's in the wrong. Is he going to do a press conference and apologize? No, they're going to double down. They're going to say, oh yeah, we'll cut your funding twice as much, right?
Yeah, that's totally right. I mean, and there'll be no pressure on him to apologize. The way that you can just hear it. I feel like I know what Cecile Richards' call with Nancy Pelosi was like, you know, when this happened, and I'm sure there was one. The thing I was going to say that I forgot before is that in the moderate defense of that, there was a scientist who they recorded, right?
As a doctor, yeah.
A doctor.
Yeah.
And the doctor sounds a little like a scientist. Like, that's how scientists talk.
I'm so happy that you made that point, because if you have a conversation with a doctor and they're explaining something terrible to you, they're not going to be empathetic and they're not going to walk on eggshells. They speak very matter-of-factly. And yes, for the average person like us, or people like us, when we watch a video like that, it seems jarring. But the reality is that's the way they talk, because they deal with these situations on a regular basis, and they can't be walking on eggshells when they're explaining these things.
To end on a lighter note, on a very serious topic, can I get Cecile Richards' picture back? That was graphic 3.
I'm afraid of where this is going.
I
did not know Cecile Richards was a sheriff.
There you go. And she's also in House of Cards.
I think she's in.
Right? Yeah.
She's not a sheriff. She's a U.S. Marshal.
Oh, my bad. Okay, so she's in Justified as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.